Body swapping is an incredibly popular genre where two or more people or creatures switch minds or bodies. There are actually many ways to achieve this, from soul swapping, brain transplants, and even through machinery. I've always been fascinated by this sort of topic ever since I was a little kid, and given this topic can go anywhere, from wholesome to NSFW to full-on degeneracy, if there's any inappropriate content in the media I'm covering, of course I'm gonna have to censor it because of YouTube. Also, while I don't consider TG or transformations as body swaps, I might as well cover some of them, given that there are some circumstances. And given that this is an Iceberg video, I have to say, I'm so surprised to this day that no one has made an Iceberg video based on this genre, so I might as well make it my own. This is everything I could find through a lot of research, memory, and any source of media that exists. If there's anything I missed, please let me know in the comment section below, and I might add it in a bonus video. So, without wasting any time, this is the body swapping Iceberg. So for this layer, I'm going to start off with the more common entries in media that I'm sure everyone's mostly familiar with. And from there, each layer we're going to dive into is going to get more obscure and less known throughout the public or fans of this genre. This is self-explanatory, so basically a ghost or a dead person or whatever entity can possess people or objects can sometimes control them or their person. So this can range from cartoony to straight up gore. This is something that can't be accomplished in the real world, but it's a transplant between two living brains, or sometimes just the brain itself. So a body swap can happen by switching minds, or sometimes having souls, which sometimes it can count as a possession, but it can be something entirely different. This can range from a body swapping machine, through extracting a soul, or even magic. It can pretty much go any way. The episode is about Jimmy getting humiliated by Cindy again, so he invents something that allows mind reading, but it all goes wrong. Mayhem ensues, and it's kind of funny how they pretend to act like each other. They then switch back in a weird sort of way. I'm not gonna lie, the thing I don't like about body switching is that they sometimes switch the voices, making it awkward. But here in Jimmy Neutron, they actually play off as each other well not to draw suspicion, and I think they did a great job with this episode. There's an episode of Gumball where Carrie possesses Gumball's body just to know what it's like to eat something. I mean, Fair, like, it would suck if I became a ghost and lost the ability to taste or eat. Then again, I wouldn't want some random ghost to possess me. To possess me and force me to eat junk food. I know American Dad has 4 episodes. The one where Stan swaps with a horse to win a race for money. The one where Klaus and Stan switches bodies because Stan refuses to place Klaus back in his original body. Klaus switches places with the frontman of the Earth, Wind, and Fire cover band. Oh, and there was one where Klaus faked his death and switched bodies with a nun in the future. Honestly, I like the episode between Stan and Klaus out of all of them. But they're all good regardless. I really need to rewatch the series. Katrina and Batman switch places just to get revenge against the villain who humiliated her. I've seen part of this episode, and I'm just gonna say for this one scene, Batman should have had more prep time given his disadvantage. But it has a lot of funny moments, especially that one part where Batman admits that Nightwing is afraid of monkeys and that "glad you agree" response. That's actually hilarious. Okay, I've never seen Ben 10, but I think I remember an ad for the body swapping episode. I'm not familiar with the other iterations, so I'm only familiar with the 2005 version. That, and I've seen a clip on YouTube at some point. Charmcaster tries to swap bodies with Ben to steal his Omnitrix, but he swaps with Gwen instead. This leads to Gwen being mistaken as a bad guy and sent to prison, and later in the episode, a few mishaps happen and they end up switching back. I've had a little history with this episode. The Puppet King turns the boys into puppets, while Starfire and Raven switches bodies, teaming up to try and reverse the swap and save the boys. Starfire and Raven's body is honestly hilarious. Also, there's a video on YouTube that used to use the scene for this audio, but I'll talk about it later in the Iceberg. So, technically speaking, there is a body swapping scene. In the episode Dark Harvest, Zim swapped the brain of a school receptionist with a can of soda. I guess it may not count as a body swap, but then again, why is the soda controlling your body then, Bart? Why is it controlling the body? I don't know why, but that scene always stuck with me, given that this was really disturbing back in the day. Just like the Invader Zim episode, this also stuck with me for some reason. I think it was the episode where Buster had a nightmare for whatever reason. And he imagined Arthur and the chicken switching brains by aliens. I don't know why, but I can't seem to find the clip, given that there's a lot of episodes, but I guess it's something I just happen to remember from the show. Oh, this episode. Poindexter possesses and switches with Danny because he thought that he was basically a school bully, and he ends up in the ghost zone. Interestingly enough, YouTuber Dusk Till Sean covered this episode in great detail, so I recommend watching that if you're interested. I mean, it's interesting to see how they live each other's lives. There was another episode where Tucker possesses Paulina as well, which is pretty much a funny scene. I don't consider transformations as body swap, but the episode changes might as well count. The episode Mom and Jerry is also another body swapping episode. And I guess by that logic, Sister Mom is also another body swap episode. This franchise is rather famous for the body swapping genre. Of course, there's Captain Ginyu with his change ability. There's also Zamasu using the Super Dragon Balls to switch bodies with Goku. And then there are the what ifs. I know Ginyu has swapped with Vegeta, Trunks, and even Goku Black, believe it or not. And speaking of what ifs, there are many YouTube channels out there covering this sort of topic, and there are many crazy body swapping scenarios and ideas. And of course, there are mangas as well, such as, well, there is a multiverse manga, which did kinda have that one scene. I might as well stop there. There's a ton of ideas and scenarios out there. I guess anyone can body swap with whomever they want. Kinda like Dragon Ball, there are many ideas here. There are episodes like Dog Days Afternoon, Blondas Have More Fun, and the well-known episode Presto Changeo, Manic Mom Day, Which is Which, and the lesser-known episode Country Clubbed. There's a good amount of episodes out there that you could watch, and given that the new series, A New Wish, has come out, I'm guessing that there's gonna be even more body swapping episodes. So, there's a rather popular scene where Lois and Peter switch places for that small moment. There's also another episode, and it kinda goes crazy from here. I'm kinda surprised that there hasn't been any more body swapping episodes, but I think it's good for now. Oh yeah, this one has a really popular episode. Yeah, so there are many body swaps within this episode. What's also weird is that apparently you can also switch the mind of a robot using a living creature. But I guess anything is possible. This one has another body swapping episode, and actually there's two, technically. The first one has a lot of mayhem, where several people switches places. The second one is where Bill takes over Dipper's body, and yeah, I kinda get that Mabel is rather a not so popular character, but I personally like this episode. Also kinda reminds me of this meme. I clearly remember this episode. Imagine ending up in a car accident and they end up switching your brains with the passenger. Like, can they not tell the difference between the brain of a weasel and a baboon? At least Baboon is able to get the respect he deserves, even if it's just Weasel. This one is another one that I clearly remember, and I've always been confused as to why Toru is the bad guy the 1 minute, and then the good guy. But it turns out that he's changed sides in the later seasons. Anyways, this is a body swapping episode, and I think it's interesting that they switch places through astral projection. Those kinds of body swaps are kinda rare in the genre. I know, this show is rather infamous, but there's another episode I remember. There are two, of course, but I think the trope where the two people switch bodies just to live each other's lives is an interesting idea. The ending is pretty funny as well. Johnny Susan, Susan Johnny is rather forgettable. I am so surprised that Lex Luthor is, well, given that he's in Flash's body, he can easily be the most OP character in the show, given what Flash did to him earlier. I also like how Barry just acts like a typical Saturday morning cartoon villain. Classic stuff right there. Oh yeah, this episode's really popular, with a lot of funny moments. This episode kinda reminds me of the Powerpuff Girls episode. This video has been around since the early days of YouTube. I don't know much about the show, but it looks interesting overall. Now that I think about it, Disney sure has a lot of body swapping content. Yeah, so Experiment 355 causes several body swappings, but causing more mayhem in the process. This has been around YouTube as well, and it's a body swapping episode between Lily and Mitsuki. This is another I wish I lived your life for a day trope. I remember watching this episode, but I only remember the scene where Lizzie and her brother switching places.
And this one features Megamind and Roxanne switching bodies? Well, that could be kinda hot, I guess.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I've heard about this episode thanks to Sherfilla's Productions. It's interesting because it's a body swapping episode between an alien and a human. I mean, although the show rather sucks overall, but gets better in the later season, it's also interesting to hear that the characters pretend to act like one another. So this is a well-known episode throughout the My Little Pony community. What's interesting about this one is it's a swap between a shy character and one who's more extroverted, and a bit of a jerk. I swear though, I'm not a brony, so I don't know much about this franchise. Once again, this is another I wish I lived your life for a day trope. It's interesting to see how the three characters get into mishap. So, I'm fully aware of the episode between Perry and Candace, and I personally like Doofenshmirtz's reaction. Apparently, there's another episode, a swap between the aliens and main characters, which, yeah, I've never really seen that episode. Given that the show can go any way, I'm kind of surprised that this hasn't been a more common trope within the show. So, in the episode Rigby's Body, his body rejects his, I guess, soul? Or slime? Like, I guess his personal self? Apparently this is a common trope of possession. But yeah, Rigby gets his body back, and overall, I guess the moral of this episode is, never eat too much junk food, or bad things will probably happen to you. Oh yeah, this episode. Imagine waking up as an old man or professor with hairy legs. But I'm sure a lot of you would be dying to switch with Miss Bellum, which, yeah, I can see why. Yeah, this is a great shift, except it's within city limits. Basically, a great shift is a worldwide body swapping scenario, although it could also range from citywide to worldwide. Anyways, this is an interesting episode overall, although I do feel sorry for Buttercup. At the time of writing this script, there are more than 760 episodes of The Simpsons. And out of all of them, there are technically 3, which is surprising given that The Simpsons is known for doing almost everything they can think of. Anyways, the first one, by technicality, is the Treehouse of Horror 2 episode, where Homer has his brain removed and placed in a robot body. There's also that future episode where Carl and Lenny switch brains, and it's been implied that Lenny's wife also had her brain swapped with a chimp. There's also that Treehouse of a Horror episode where Homer dies and has his soul placed in random bodies. I'm surprised they haven't made more body swapping episodes. I'm kinda surprised that the show even has a body swapping episode. Well, 2 if you count the time Kenny possesses Cartman's body because he drank his ashes. I realized that there was an episode when I was watching the DTV reaction of that famous Pip episode. The one where the Queen wanted to place her soul inside the body of her daughter, I guess? Luckily, Pip was there to save the day. As far as South Park episodes go, I don't think this was a bad episode. Like, really? Is this really considered bad? If anything, I think Pip just gets overhated for no reason. So, there's an episode where Sonic and Eggman switches bodies, and it kinda reminds me of that Justice League episode. Overall, a good episode. There are actually a lot of funny moments out there. And I think I've seen this episode by watching that one guy's reaction. There's also a fan comic out there called Change Our Minds, where the group switches bodies, pretty much acting like each other, which is rather interesting. I know there's more Sonic related body swapping content, which I'll cover later in the Iceberg. Technically, there are 2 episodes out of all 270 episodes, which is rather surprising given that the show barely covers the topic of body swapping. There's the episode where SpongeBob is forced to work at the chum bucket, later having his brain placed in the robot body. That sounds familiar. There's also the episode where Patrick has his mind replaced with a coral, which, yeah, not much to talk about here. Oh yeah, this is another interesting one. So this show is rather infamous for, yeah. There are 2 episodes. The first one is rather forgettable, but the second one is more memorable. Also, it's a great shift episode. Yeah, so given the other bullshit that this show spews, What with switching brains with meddling kids? And the brain transplant between Velma and Daphne. It's honestly one of the worst body swapping ideas I've ever seen. Like, come on, let's be real here. Like, the Scooby Doo movie did a whole lot better job. I'm kind of surprised that, given that magic is more common within this world, you'd think that there'd be more like body switching ideas, but there's only two of them. The first one's between Alex and her mom, and the other one's between her best friend Harper. With the recent remake, yeah, there's actually a body swapping scene here, which is rather interesting. If the silent protagonist were to suddenly talk and call me his minion, yeah, like, something's obviously off with the Mario brother. Also, Super Mario Odyssey is a game where you can technically possess and control other beings. Using a hat, of course. If it were to fall on the wrong hands, there could be consequences. Okay, so this has to be the most popular and rather well-known body switching genre. This is a common trope, a swap between a mother and a daughter or between family members. And there are several movie iterations. There's a 1976 version, the 1995 version, the rather well-known 2003 version, and the 2018 version. And technically speaking, we might as well add the 2020 version as well. I also know a version between a Japanese woman and a black man, but I'll cover that later in the Iceberg. So, given that this movie is the least popular within the franchise, I think it still had an interesting body swapping scene between Puss and Donkey. But yeah, it's really nothing that special. This is a rather popular body switching anime movie between two people. I haven't seen the movie myself yet, but I actually recommend giving this movie a watch if you're a fan of the body swapping genre. It sounds interesting. Yeah, believe it or not, Pokemon has a few body swapping, I guess, genres or content. I know the Pokemon movie, Manaphy uses Heart Swap for body swapping. I believe in Super Smash Bros. Brawl for the Wii also had that ability, so that's interesting. There's one entry in the Iceberg that I'll be covering later, between Meloetta and Iris. This is another popular body swapping movie, which Rob Schneider is pretty much the hot chick. It's rated PG-13. Anyways, this is a body swap between a man and a teenage girl, which, when you think about it, this one kinda aged poorly. But yeah, I also remember this movie because I remember back in the early days of YouTube, the princess and the servants used to like switch bodies because she wanted to avoid the wedding. And it was actually interesting, like, when you actually think about it, I guess you think, like, whatever happened to those two? Is the servant well off as the princess now? Or maybe they're both living each other's lives for the better. A comment in this video brought up a good point that this should have been the plot for the movie instead, given it has so many interesting possibilities. Yeah, there's a lot of art out there. Some you can easily find through Google, and some throughout forums. Of course, you're gonna have to research that stuff on your own. On YouTube, there are dozens of playlists with this sort of genre, some ranging within the thousands of videos. But I'm guessing that a lot of these videos are lost or deleted. Still, it's interesting to see how many videos are there on YouTube. This is a Spanish translation for body swap, which is something I commonly searched back in the day. Apparently, it's just as popular as a topic within the Spanish-speaking community, which, yeah. There are a lot of Spanish shows and topics I could talk about here, but I'll save that for later. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, there is lost media, although I haven't heard much from the public. I know there's an Avril Lavigne story I'm aware of, but as far as lost media topics, I'll talk about it later in the Iceberg, alongside some videos I've encountered in the past. So there's that episode where Rick escapes jail and uses body swapping to pretty much escape and get revenge against the council. There's also that one episode where Rick and Jerry, I guess technically they switch places, but it's such a weird episode. I guess it's some sort of fusion body swap or conscious merging. I'm not really an expert on this, so I wouldn't know. I guess technically, if we're gonna add another episode to this, there's that one time where Rick dies and he pretty much ends up in the body of another version of himself. And he tries to go back home through his universe, so yeah. Alpha did cover one of the anime episodes in his video, which is rather unique, but I'm more aware of the switch between Enchantra and Sabrina, which I saw the plot for the episode, and excuse me, but why would you want to switch bodies with a dictator? That's like switching bodies with a certain German dictator. Besides the animated series, there's also the sitcom show, which in one episode she drinks a boy brew potion to turn into Jack, which normally I don't consider transformations as body swap, but it's all magic and stuff. There's also another episode where she transforms herself into Libby, another character through pretty much transformation. Oh, and apparently the 1969 Sabrina show, the episode When the Cat's Away, also had a body swapping episode. I could have sworn that the sitcom had more body swapping episodes, but they're mostly transformations. I am aware of this episode. Glenn and Brett switches bodies, with Glenn betting that Brett wouldn't last a day being ugly and poor. At first, Glenn is living the life, while Brett is miserable in his new body. But things make an unexpected turn, with Glenn basically not learning his lesson. Interesting stuff. Imagine switching bodies with a dinosaur. I mean, it's rather a cool idea, but unless it's a polymorph spell, I would not recommend it. Yeah, so in the episode, Lunelia and her dinosaurs pretty much switch bodies. Kinda like the Jimmy Neutron episode, except they switch bodies all over again. Multiple times, actually. Now that I think about it, this has to be pretty much the most body swaps I've ever seen in any fictional episode. It's a pretty good episode, I recommend watching it. I just mentioned this earlier, but I recommend watching this video. Alpha covers several body swapping episodes for many shows, covering the plots, ideas, and his feelings for each episode. It's a pretty good video overall. I don't know how I managed to miss this one, but I thought the Chowder episode was pretty good overall. Nothing much to say about it. The idea of body swapping in both manga and anime seemed to be very popular, and it's been happening since the 80s. There are a whole ton of them to cover, and it can range from wholesome to NSFW, but there's something you might enjoy. So, interesting enough, there are technically some instances of body swapping within the VTubing community. I know there was a HoloLive 2022 April Fool's event where the council, well, they switched voices, but it kinda does give off the vibe that something's up. I know there are similar videos within HoloLive, but I know other VTubers like Vidal and Nuro, and some members within Nijisanji End have dwelled within this topic. Overall, it's interesting how they can pull off as each other, just for shits and giggles. Yes, with the rise of AI content, I have come across some body switching content. I haven't used a character AI in a while, but coming back to the website, there's now a lot of AI chatbots focused on body switching, or possessions, or whatever. The images, on the other hand, I guess they're nothing too notable, like, or interesting to talk about. Not to get confused with Freaky Friday. This movie is about a teenage girl and a serial killer. However, the magical dagger he possesses ends up switching their bodies. Now she has 24 hours to switch back before the swap becomes permanent, leaving the killer in their old body, pretty much killing people. I haven't seen this yet, but it looks rather interesting. I wouldn't want a serial killer ending up in my body just to murder people. So the trailer for this just recently came out, and the Netflix trailer is where it's pretty much a bunch of old friends switching bodies, pretty much for a game. And of course, they decide to explore each other's new bodies, but oh no, things go wrong. It's a body swatching horror comedy. Should be rather interesting. Maybe I'll give it a watch if I have any other reason to regain my Netflix subscription. At the time of making this video, there are currently six body switching videos. For those who are not aware, SML is basically a puppet show web series that's mostly aimed for adults, but draws the attention to younger fans. It used to have Mario characters until Nintendo, well, you know. Anyways, out of all the videos, I personally enjoyed 1-2 Switch Bodies the most, just because it's the most creative and funny out of all of them. I'm actually surprised there isn't much body switching or possession games out there, but I'm guessing you can possess other people to defeat enemies? Although, this game has a bit of a controversy, where you can pretty much tell from the like to dislike ratio. I'm not gonna get into it, but I'm guessing the game is not going to do that well. Okay, so this one is really interesting. There's this video on YouTube called The Unexplored Ethics of Body Swaps. While it's not well known, I recommend giving this a watch if you're a fan of body swapping, because it has a lot of good points, especially in the comments section. There's even an episode of a TV show that actually explores this sort of idea, and while I'll talk about it later in the Iceberg, it was honestly a dark episode, but yeah. Simpsons also explored this idea, where the episode where Homer comes back to life, that's pretty much an example. Imagine being alive for 1 minute and then having your body stolen by divine force. It's kind of really messed up. What if you switch places with, let's say, with your friend, and they suddenly die in your body, or you die in theirs? What happens next? Is the swap permanent, or can you switch back? There are a lot of questions left unanswered once you delve into this topic, and that's something I find interesting. Technically, I guess this counts as a soul transfer movie, given that the scientist uses alchemy to transfer his soul into a doll. Although the robot can also steal souls as well. So, yeah, this technically counts. Honestly, it's an underrated movie. You should give this a watch if you have the chance. I actually remember liking this show when I was young, but like, I used to be a huge fan of this franchise. But I remember seeing a snippet of the episode, which is something. Also, I didn't realize that there was a season 3 back then, so yeah. I actually didn't know about this until I mentioned the video a few entries ago. There was a controversy within this movie, which I get it though. I wouldn't want some weirdo stealing my body with malicious intent. Go watch a video if you're interested in the topic. I actually remember this. Like, it's an interesting movie, but like, they swap bodies by doing what? Yeah. If you're a fan of this genre, I'm sure you're aware of a YouTuber called 3 Degrees Off Center. They are rather well known for several of their videos. They've even collaborated with other well-known body-swapping YouTubers like Ren Adams. To this day, they're still uploading body-switching videos, which is impressive. Yeah, there's a body-swapping scene. I guess technically this is a body-swapping movie, in the sense that they swap bodies with avatars, I guess, to play the game. And I guess this is interesting. Also, apparently the cartoon show also had a body switching scene as well, so I might as well mention that. Oh yeah, oh god, I actually remember watching this movie. Like, imagine being in a coma and then having your conscience swapped with a cat. Like, I guess it's kind of cool. You get to do cat stuff, like hiss and throw up fur balls or whatever. But you're also stuck in the body of a cat, which I wouldn't want to be stuck as a cat. It has a lot of disadvantages. I've never seen this movie, but you know what this reminds me of? There's this Sonic animation, which I'm pretty sure it's based on this movie, where Sonic switches bodies with a dog, and it kinda gives off similar vibes. But yeah, watching a review of this movie, I'm kinda surprised how dark and grim it is. Honestly, I should watch this at some point. Thankfully, it's not on this Disney Plus, but like, you can actually watch the whole movie on YouTube.
I can look at myself naked.
This movie was intended for children, right?
I don't think it was meant for anybody.
So the Nostalgia Critic review pretty much sums up this movie. But yeah, this actually has a better body switching scene than Velma, and it kinda makes more sense. Oh boy, I actually remember seeing the Buffy clip on YouTube back in the early days. Honestly, I was actually obsessed with that clip. Honestly, it's an interesting way to switch places. It was more interesting seeing how Faith pretended to act like Buffy. There was also that other scene where they switch bodies again. Although I'm not too familiar with the show Charmed. If it's good, feel free to let me know. I've seen this episode before, and given that the whole concept of this show is basically this kid getting a brain transplant, it's kind of weird how this is the only body swapping episode. If I remember correctly, the episode wasn't that great. Nothing too remarkable. I think I've seen a scene that involved a body swapping scene, but what's interesting about this is that they actually have several body swapping episodes. YouTuber Ranger Review made a top 10 episode ranking from the worst to best body swaps episodes. Cool stuff. In the episode Switcheroo, Jake and Haley have a Freaky Friday experience. There's also an episode, Dragon Breath, where a soul-sucking Nyx sucks souls or switches souls between characters. So, besides that infamous scene, there's this one concept where this is pretty much a concept between a former scientist who finds himself trapped in pretty much a time travel experiment gone wrong, leaping to random bodies every week. Interesting stuff. So there are actually several scenes from the cartoons to the comics, but the one I'm more familiar with is the comic The Superior Spider-Man, where Doc Ock places his mind in Peter Parker's body. Kinda reminds me of that Out of Jimmy's Head episode, but like, it's pretty much less ridiculous. I mean, besides the fan content and fan art, Sumero has a number of body switching episodes and possession content out there, especially in the mission where you're supposed to possess others to convince Citaria to return to her hometown. In the later mission, however, the Traveler and Nahida also end up switching bodies just for a few moments. Rip Catherine though. Not surprisingly, there are also several body switching content out there, which, yeah, figures. Like, it's pretty much filled with anime characters. How is that not surprising? Besides the fan art, I know there's like a few body switching episodes, but that's pretty much it. I've heard so many positive things about this show, so at some point I should really give this a watch. Plus, Dana Snyder voices Scratch, so that's always a positive. Given that this show has ghosts, it's obvious that there's gonna be a body switching or possession episode. Honestly, I've seen this episode and I kinda like it.
I'm gonna say the N-word. That's racist! You can't say the N-word!
Honestly, that video kinda fits the context for this episode. All I'm gonna say here is, it's rather a unique body switching episode. Although, it has a certain scene. But yeah. I mentioned about the Batman Brave and the Bold and Teen Titans episode earlier, but I know there are many instances of body swapping. Besides the Justice League Unlimited episode, there's also the episode from Action, the Batman Beyond episode, and even a good number of comics that have a decent amount of swap or possession content. The one I clearly remember though is a fan-made body swapping edit of a comic between Robin and Batgirl and Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. Overall, I say there's a good amount of body switching content out there. A Reddit thread mentions several forms of content, such as the Marvel team-up where Spider-Man and Miss Marvel switches bodies, the Mosaic comic, and the swap between Wolverine and Spider-Man. Out of all of them, however, my favorite one has to be the one between Doctor Doom and Tony Stark. Comic Explains covers the whole comic in detail, so I recommend watching that. So, originally I was gonna put this entry in the middle of the iceberg, but during my research of content, someone actually uploaded the whole movie just recently during the making of this video, and yeah, the whole movie has been found. Before that, it was basically a body switching movie between an elderly woman and a young woman, and there was only 15 minutes of it. Spoiler alert, this movie ends with the elderly woman switching places with another innocent woman. So, yeah, the ending is pretty messed up when you think about it. If you're a fan of body switching content, I recommend watching this. It's pretty good. Basically, a body swapping manga between a high school student and a witch. I've never read it, but I do remember seeing this all throughout YouTube at some point. This one is rather interesting. It's a body swapping episode between two robots. Like in Futurama, however, where Bender switches places with one of the human characters, here Proto Boy switches his motherboard with Robot Boy's motherboard, I guess, tossing the old one in the trash, alongside the body. Interesting stuff. I will say this though, I hate Gus. Like, I fucking hate that kid. God, I hate him. Pretty much the only thing here is the body switching episode between Casey and April. That's pretty much it. Dr. Two Brains tries to swap bodies with the mayor, but accidentally switches with Word Girl. What's interesting about this episode is that there's pretty much a storyboard video on YouTube, which is pretty nice. Other than that, it would be pretty weird having two brains in your body. Given that this world has magic, I'm not surprised that there's like a few body switching scenes. Unfortunately, there are pretty much two instances I can find. So, unless you guys know any, feel free to let me know in the comment section. Oh, and yeah, there's basically the fan art, too. Lucina seems to be the more popular character when it comes to body switching content. So, yeah, given that the art can go full on NSFW, take that as you will. I'm not too familiar with its manga, but apparently it's an Alice in Wonderland mixed with isekai with a hint of body swapping. It honestly sounds like a cool concept. If you ever been on this forum, this is one of the more popular forums where pretty much anyone can discuss body switching content and other related content out on here. There's a large catalog of content and recommendations here, so I recommend checking it out. It's really interesting. Huh. I've never really... Yeah, then again, Fred Flintstone wasn't Billy and Mandy, so I guess the body swapping scene is not out of the question. This is a rather popular body switching game where I think a high school student named John ends up switching bodies with random people using a remote. From what I could tell, there are many scenarios out there, and you're free to do with whatever you want with it, since it's an open source game. It's one of the more popular visual novel games out there. I mean, this is really self-explanatory. There are some SFW art for body switching or possessions or whatever similar concepts are there. The NSFW art is pretty much more popular, with there being a Rule 34 section on body switching. Okay, so I don't recommend looking this up if you're not that into that sort of stuff. Okay, this is rather weird. I don't consider this as a body swapping or possession kind of thing. Like, it feels like you're more likely wearing a skin of a person. Kinda like how people like to wear fur from their animals. I guess, in a way, you're most likely going to wear a costume. And in some instances, it kind of feels like being in a different body. I don't know. This kind of stuff doesn't make any sense, but yeah. This is an interesting concept. This was introduced in the Scooby-Doo movie by a YouTuber by the name of the Demon Queen of Spooky Island. Used to be known as Body Swapper, is known for making, I guess, demons possessing people? It's a weird concept, but I guess these creatures have their own ulterior motives. Of course, this site has a lot of art. In the way, when it comes to pretty much the genre for this video, there is a lot of art. And I mean, a lot of art. So yeah. I've only been on the site a few times, but it's basically the modern DeviantArt. Same with both sides. There's actually a body switching content tag, but it's a little more difficult to search unless you're on the English side of the site. The website is rather well known for their art, but I'm not calling it X. It's such a dumb name. Anyways, with the art community, they have a lot of NSFW art related to buy switching, possessions, and similar content. They have SFW art as well, but that's pretty much it. Surprisingly enough, there is buy switching content, but there's also subreddits within the sort of genre. I had to advise that some communities are NSFW, but yeah, other than that, there is a decent amount of stuff here. This has to be the most messed up way to get a brain transplant. Basically, in Wolfenstein the New Order, depending on who you choose, Wyatt or Fergus, one of them could have their brain extracted, and the other one pretty much survives. The one you have their brain extracted will later have their brain placed in a robot body, a powerful one at that. I would not recommend watching this for the faint of heart. I don't know if I should consider this as a buy swap, but basically it's transferring a mind of a person into a foreign alien, only because the planet is pretty much poisonous to humans. Also kind of an interesting concept. From what I can tell, this is a movie where a black man invites his white girlfriend into the countryside to meet her parents. Not to spoil the movie, but revealed that brain transplanting is involved, and things kinda get dark really quickly. Interesting movie, I should give this a watch, although I wouldn't want some weirdo trying to do some kind of brain transplant without my consent. I actually remember seeing this around YouTube at one point, which I will say, it kinda gets awkward at a certain scene. Basically a body swapping film between two people who hate each other, which, nothing much to say about it. I know Sorta Stupid reacted to this movie at some point, but that's all pretty much I know. Imagine if Spider-Verse had a body switching film where you can pretty much switch bodies of your alternate self through verse jumping. I don't want to spoil anything here, but like, I could tell just by watching a small preview that this movie is incredibly interesting. I should also give this a watch at some point. Okay, I'm using a test microphone for this part, but yeah, so I know Sonic the Hedgehog has had a few entries. I know Sonic X has like a by possession episode, and I know there's like a few pieces of content out there, that covers either buy swapping or possession content out there. I even talked about the video that talks about the switch between Sonic and the dog. I also remember a fanfiction that pretty much it was like a buy swap between classic Sonic and classic Tails. I even remember like how in the fanfiction Knuckles was like, "Hey, how did you not defeat Eggman?" Uh, yeah, that's all that I can pretty much think of when it comes to the franchise. But there's something I'm missing. Feel free to let me know. Kinda like one of those Freaky Friday plots, Lil Dicky and Chris Brown ends up switching bodies. The whole music video goes all over the place, with him ending up switching places with 3 other musicians. Now that I think about it, this is the first body switching song I've ever heard. So, yeah, I guess I've seen something new every day. Do you guys remember the overly attached girlfriend? I know I do. Imagine switching bodies with pretty much a yandere, and it's pretty much the plot for this video. Like, it's really creepy. Like, imagine having your own body stolen, and they pretty much have the advantage over you. Like, I really like the twist though, so it's a really solid video. So, I remember this being up on YouTube years ago, until it was taken down. Luckily, the original uploader re-uploaded this, but part 2, however, kinda takes a weird turn. Like, to be honest though, I'm not surprised, given that people love making random things with random characters. Also, why is Meloetta in love with Ash? You know what? Moving on.
Oh, you scared me half to death. Then let's take care of the other half.
All right, listen up, you little radish munchers. This battle is about to become way too exciting to show our younger viewers. So, instead, I will show you this soothing image until the fight is over. Sweet mother of 5, you should see this. Cookies and mushrooms flying through the air like June bugs in a swamp. Whew! It appears to be over. Let's go back to the... Whoa! That was entirely my bad. I misread the signals. I knew a guy named Joe. He misread the signals in a combat situation. Now he eats everything through a mechanical straw. Wait! Battle's over. Carry on.
Oh yeah, I am aware of this episode. I forgot who originally reviewed this episode. It was pretty much a long time ago. I think it was either Ralph the Movie Maker. Mr. Enter or Rebel Taxi, but whoever was responsible for this, yeah, thanks guys. I didn't need to be reminded of this episode. So, basically, Chica and the other guy, Jack, end up switching bodies and, yeah, let me play the song for you.
Beer trucks, incest, and don't forget the Confederate flag.
Incest. Yeah, gay incest. Listen, man. There's nothing wrong with being gay, but if you're into pretty much incest, yeah. I remember back in the 2010s of YouTube, she used to pretty much charge her videos. Like, you had to pay a decent amount of money to pay to watch her videos. And I also remember her getting backlash for that decision. Now the videos are pretty much free, and Ren Adams is well known for body switching videos, her most popular ones being possessions. Currently, the whereabouts of Ren or any updates are unknown, with her last update on Facebook being recent, around 2020, during a certain cough disease. Apparently on Metamorphs, there have been claims that, yeah, she pretty much did it for the money, but that's all speculation. Kind of like Kei the Yatagaratsu. I'm sure she'll make a comeback someday. Speaking of Kei, she's a popular body-switching deviant artist, well known for original and random body-switching content. She was originally gone, with her last update being on 2017, but recently has uploaded her first drawing in years. Welcome back, Kei. So, I mentioned this earlier in the Iceberg, but I do remember a long, way long, in the early days of YouTube, there was this animation where someone used the voice clips for the episode of Raven and Starfire switching bodies. I think it was in 3D, although it could have been animated through Gary's Mod or Source Filmmaker. It was kind of bizarre. I remember watching it all over and over again, but sadly I can't seem to find it anymore. Maybe at some point I'll try to find it again, maybe re-upload it on my second channel, but as of now, it's probably lost forever. I'm sure these were more popular back in the day, but when it comes to body switching stories and possessions and all that, these were the more interesting ones. Basically, you pretty much choose your own adventure. Some stories online offer interesting scenarios, but whatever you choose, you end up choosing said choice. And you can even make some of your own. A lot of them are NSFW, so I advise you to be careful with that. I actually do remember there being scenes of human consciousness transfer, or pretty much basically placing someone's mind into a living person. I don't blame them though. If they have the technology to basically live forever, just by transferring their consciousness into a body, it would make sense to do it, although the moral implications and ethics are questionable at best. You can't just steal a living person's body without consent. it all depends on if they have the power to do it, or you can try and avoid your fate. Oh yeah, I actually remember coming across the scene. So, imagine there being a gambling machine where you're forced to switch places with an animal, pretty much any animal to be accurate. Oh, and one of the main characters switches places with another character. This is from the 10th episode of the show, which honestly kinda looks like another generic magical girl show, to be honest. I know there were several stories out there. I know this because I used to be a fan of these books. I remember reading whatever book I could find during middle school, and yeah. Anyways, the first book is Revenge of the Body Squeezers, and what's interesting about this is that it's a choose-your-own adventure book. I actually remember being a huge fan of this genre. Depending on your choices, it can either go all wrong to somewhat good. There is some body switching in this story, so yeah. The other book is the I'm Afraid of the Bees, where the main character tries to steal the body of a cool kid, because why not? Apparently, Goosebumps fans seem to hate the book, which, it was probably so bad that there's no episode to it. Yeah. If I remember correctly, and spoiler alert, I think even the Ghost Dog books, had a body swapping plot. Leaving them stuck in the body of a ghost dog. It's kind of really messed up when you think about it. Think of this as the mature Goosebumps. By that, it's mostly aimed at teenagers. Anyways, one book I remember reading, it was called The Switch book, where two best friends end up switching bodies. I don't want to spoil anything here, but I do remember liking the book. Also, it had an interesting plot twist in the end. I recommend checking that out. There's also body switchers from outer space, but that's pretty much it. Another YouTuber who's known for her content, but she's mostly focused with TG. Again, I don't consider this as a body swap, but mostly a transformation where you can pretty much change gender or looks. Sadly, while she's still uploading, she's taken the AI route, which, yeah. I don't know if the epilogue to the Princess Robot Bubblegum episode in GTA 5 counts. She actually does have her master's voice. I don't know, it's complicated. In GTA Online though, through astral projection and pretty much a load of weed, the online player does possess Franklin and Lamar. But I guess they're technically taking the back seat, since they're pretty much acting like them. I don't know, it's the weed controlling them as well? I don't know, it's so complicated. Earlier I mentioned that Reddit and Twitter had a ton of body switching content, so I tried searching it on Facebook, and yeah, there's nothing too notable. If anything, you're better off Googling it. I mentioned this a while ago, earlier in the Iceberg, and luckily enough, I managed to track down the story, though I'm kind of disappointed that this wasn't part of the whole Avril Lavigne replacement conspiracy theory. Like, honestly, that would have made an interesting story to that, but like, anyways, basically the story is about, and I kind of like how the author just began the story with, I was minding my own business when I suddenly got shot. So anyways, Avril Lavigne, I honestly don't know how to pronounce that name, sorry, got into a car accident in the story, and the main character, Lucy, gets shot at Starbucks. And then, suddenly, she gets a brain transplant, switching her brain with Avril's. And this kind of confuses everyone, including her old boyfriend. Sadly, the author hasn't updated the story since 2016. So, the story is currently in a cliffhanger. But I honestly like it. I wish it was part of the conspiracy theory though. I know it's pretty weird that this entry is low in the iceberg, but like, there aren't much buy switching or possession commercials out there. I mean, yeah, there are those TG ads, but like, I've actually re-uploaded one in my second channel. It's the Aflac commercial, where like the Aflac duck switches buys with Melania Trump. Okay, politics aside, this is honestly pretty funny. I remember there being a Spanish dub for this commercial, which I really want to try and find at some point, but it's currently lost, from what I can tell. Oh, and I managed to find this buy switching commercial with Intel, which is interesting. Other than that, it's weird that there's not a lot of buy switching commercials out there. Basically, a caption is where you have an image to the left of the picture and a long fading story in the right. These tell a short story on how the character in the image swap bodies or got possessed by someone. There seem to be a ton of these out there, and I remember these being around for more than 10 years now. Although I can't find the point of origin to these things. I mentioned the whole choose your own adventure thing, and this is the website that had the combination of both choosing your own adventure and body switching story. I actually remember coming across the site back in the early 2000s, but nowadays, looking back at it, it still has a decent community base, although I have to note two things about the modern writing.com. They seem to have an annoying thing where free members are prevented from exploring the interactive stories from going further, unless you pay a membership or pretty much refresh the page. And coming back to the site, a lot of stories have kind of aged poorly. Yeah, nothing more to add here. Basically a bi-switching film between sisters after they wish to be each other. Nothing too interesting. Seems like the movie is more underrated within the bi-switching genre. I honestly can't believe I forgot about this, but it's not as well known. This was also around in the early days of YouTube, though in the Tarzan cartoon, Jane ends up getting possessed by Queen La, and she later possesses Tarzan. Honestly, it's an interesting episode, and you can actually watch it on YouTube, full episode and all. You'd be surprised that there's a ton of fanfiction. Of course, there's many based on body switching. I can't think of any in mind, but like, it's actually been years since I've been on the site. Anyways, if you're curious, feel free to check the site. So, there's this genre on YouTube, and I'm kind of obsessed with it. I'm sure some of you have come across these channels, and basically where the plot for each manga is like, girlfriend betrays me, so I got a better girlfriend. Or best friend betrays me, so I do better for myself. Or tsundere hates me, but actually likes me. Believe it or not, there are body switching videos. There are a few from Attack on Mika, and one from many people, and Rabbit Home Noba. There was one where, I don't remember which channel this was from, but like the story was like about an old lady who pretty much stole the body of a young woman, and the woman tries to get her body back, and in the end they end up reconciling with each other, and like they switch back. But like, while I was making this Iceberg, it was either deleted or privated, and I don't remember which channel made this video. Doing some research on the Wayback Machine, I found another many video where a character gets possessed by the devil, and there are others like this out there. That's pretty much it within the video rom-com department. Not much to talk about it. To my surprise, this channel show is very popular. I know it's weird that it's lower in the Iceberg, but like, it's just one episode of where like the whole family switches places. From what I remember, I thought it was okay. Like, I honestly like how the entire family got zapped by lightning. It reminds me of that scene from Chavo de Ocho. If you speak Spanish, I recommend giving this episode a watch. It's decent. On the brink of divorce, James and Michelle has drifted apart over the years and couldn't be more different. On their 13th wedding anniversary, they wake up to discover that they somehow switch bodies. Unable to switch back, they are forced to understand what the other goes through on a daily basis. They develop a new sense of respect and find themselves falling in love all over again. I mean, it's a cool concept, and I can understand how the love between a man and a woman can sparkle between them, if you know what I mean. I almost forgot about this. Yeah, this is pretty much a body swapping short between friends. It's kind of funny, although Red was kind of being a dick. I honestly can't believe I've learned this fact from like an LOL Superman Iceberg. But what's interesting about this search topic. Like, let's say you're trying to find like a body switching video, or you're trying to find like a lost media video or something like that. Or from memory. All you have to do is type the keyword, then you type before, then the 2 colons, and then the year of like you suspect where like the media is from. And boom, you actually have the search. This works on YouTube and Google, from what I can tell. So now you've learned something today. So have fun with that. I know this anime is popular, but I'm not surprised that it has a body swapping scene. Funny enough, I have seen body swapping memes from this anime, so it's honestly hilarious here. Also, what's interesting about this scene is that they keep their voices during the swap as well, which that's honestly a good thing. Like I honestly appreciate the level of detail there. I've never seen this anime, but honestly, I honestly like the scene. Like, I can honestly see the lady adjusting to her new body, while the gentleman is like, freaking out in his new body. It's an interesting change in dynamic. This is a game where a young, aspiring soldier and a mysterious girl switch places. It's an RPG with a ripple effect that changes the minds of everyone involved. I actually recommend this game. It's kind of a shame it's more obscure, but like, hopefully it's something you'll be able to enjoy. Everybody knows about Google, but like, for those who've used search engines before, I'm sure you guys remember Yahoo or Ask Jeeves. I remember there being other ways to search related topics, and it seems to apply the same for modern search engines as well. Have you ever wondered what was the oldest form of body switching in media? Well, for literature, it's Vice Versa by Thomas Anksey Guthrie. It's nothing too spectacular, but it's interesting how this is the first one in history. For media like TV or films, I guess Google AI claims that the episode is like the Twilight Zone episode called A Most Unusual Camera. And I've done a bit of research on this, but apparently I don't see it. Apparently Freaky Friday is considered the first body switching film, which, yeah, that doesn't sound right, but like, I'm not a film expert, so yeah. If anyone knows any older forms of body switching in media, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. Remember how I brought up earlier in the Iceberg about the ethics of body swapping? This is actually a good example. This episode is like really dark. Like, yeah. This this is a body swapping episode between a family man and a convict. I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say that I do feel bad for the guy and his family. I recommend giving this a watch if you're able to handle dark content like murder and gore and all that stuff. It's a good example how body switching is not always a good thing, and how random people can just end up messing up with your life and all that. Or do whatever they want with it. This author made other body switching books, but this one is something I remember reading. So basically, a body switching book is. This is a body switching book between siblings. I do remember liking this, but looking back at it, it's nothing too remarkable. So yeah, there's actually a few body switching content from this game itself. The three that come up in mind, well, the first one is a body swapping scene between a nerd and a cheerleader. The second is a body swapping scene between a woman and an old lady. And in that one, she finds the younger woman disrespectful towards their elders, so pretty much he steals her life. Number 3, this one is kind of messed up too. It's pretty much a body swap between an old man and a pretty much a regular guy. So, in this one, the old man introduces a lovely lady to his friend, but his plan all along was pretty much switching bodies with the man using a coin, just so not only can he steal the lady and his life, but his body as well. That's kind of messed up. Why would you even do that? I know you want to be young and all, but this pretty much introduce him to the lady and then steal your body too? Yeah. Imagine ending up in the body of an elderly man, only to die. Skill issue right there. Overall, interesting game. If you've seen some Japanese body switching videos, well, they pretty much end up switching bodies with I guess a red string? I don't get how this works, but I guess it works, I guess? Although it's kind of rare in the genre because I haven't seen this in other content, but yeah, it's unique, I guess. In the Tiny Toons episode, the headmistress, ends up switching brains with, pretty much a potato. It was also kind of a weird episode. I believe the reboot also has, an episode where they switch places also. I actually mentioned this while listing several Freaky Friday movies, and I think it was on YouTube at some point during the time period. Basically, it's a body swapping film from 2008 between a Japanese woman and a black man. It's really hard to find the film, but if you actually manage to find it, I mean, watching a preview of it, obviously it's corn. It's basically corn. What do you expect? It's lower on the iceberg only because this has to be like the most obscure Freaky Friday film out there. I actually remember the SGB playthrough for this game years ago. What's interesting is that in the game, there's an ending where you get to make a choice. It involves body swapping. I don't want to spoil anything here, but like, I highly recommend you try out the trilogy games. They're very interesting.